Welcome to this week's Facebook Live. I'm looking forward to this one. I think this is something that people are curious about, but may not know what to say or what to ask or how to get into this conversation. So today we're talking about outsourcing your lead generation and how to think about that, how to think through that. And I'll tell you what created this conversation, because I was talking to my virtual assistant just earlier this week, and not only were we talking about some of the details of how to do lead generation, but in the back of my mind, I was also thinking about some of the real mistakes people make when they look for help to generate leads, look for help to generate new business. The kind of mistakes that you make, the kind of mistakes that I made when hiring people to do work for me in an effort to acquire more clients. So we're gonna go through that today. We're gonna go through some of the challenges and mistakes that people go through, and etc. So as always, got a question, got a comment at, as we go here. So let's start with the basic problem here. The basic problem is that you want someone else to help you with the daily heavy lifting of acquiring new clients. You want someone else to help you with the effort involved in securing new business. And somewhere along the way, you make a decision about that. You decide to hire someone or hire an agency or to hire a vendor, what have you, hire a partner or partner up with someone in order to do that. And then life unfolds. So let's talk about some of that life, shall we? Let's start with here. Let's start with, I'm pulling up my notes here. Let's start with, who do you hire? Who do you hire? So there's a bit of a list here. And by the way, I've talked to folks, right? I'm on the phone with folks, a lot like you, and this is what we're going through. So this makes a lot of sense that you would hire a salesperson. So what I'm going to do, listen, we're growing. We're at a good place. I'm going to hire a salesperson. And so when you hire a salesperson, what are you thinking about? You're thinking as someone who's going to pound the phones, if you've used that phrase. Someone who's going to pound the phones, who's going to hit the streets, who's going to get out there and network. Right? You're going to hire a salesperson. That's what a salesperson does, right? So that's one. You hire a lead generation person to generate leads. There's a lot of categories for this. You might hire a cold email specialist to do cold emails. You may hire a paid traffic person to do paid traffic. There's all of the kind of ways you could generate leads. But you hire a lead gen specialist to generate leads. That's another route you could take. You hire a content person or a content company to create content. So white papers and ebooks and perhaps a web design you're going to execute. Whatever, right? But you hire some people to help you create content, a graphic designer, a graphic artist, an illustrator, those people, a video person. These are people who will create content on behalf of your business to help you generate more leads. Or you hire a virtual assistant to do some mix of those things. And I'm already laughing. I'm kind of already giving it away here. You hire a virtual assistant and you're expecting this person to do some mix, right, of all of that. And this person typically gets overwhelmed with all of those different types of tasks, because this person is more generalist than specialist. So they can do, a little bit with a lot of different things, but they don't have the deep dive expertise in order to execute your desired goals or strategy of client acquisition, lead generation, etc. Okay, next section. Lynn's here. Hey, Lynn. So what are you really hiring for? When you are hiring an agency to do lead gen work, client acquisition work, etc., what are you really hiring for? Are you hiring for marketing work? So this is all that outreach, outbound, put it out there in the world marketing work? Or are you hiring for prospecting work, which is more attuned to reaching out to individual people, individual clients, or prospective clients, and trying to generate business in a more targeted, laser approach, if you will? Are you hiring for follow-up work? So whether you do marketing in that way or you think about prospecting in that way, there's some follow-up work that has to be done in order to get somebody on the phone. You got to do that part too. Who's doing that? Are you hiring for the actual mechanical sales process? So the actual meeting mechanical on the phone, I say this, they say that, go back and forth, and close phone, close sale. Is that what you're hiring for? How about the follow-up work for that? So once you've had conversation number 1, who does the follow-up work for conversation 2, 3, and 4 if one is needed? Once you have the conversation number 1 and they actually say yes, and you got a new client, what work happens after that? Does the salesperson do that work? Who does that work? So when you think about hiring someone, when you hire a lead gen specialist, whatever you call that person, business development agency, whatever phrase you happen to give it, when you're hiring someone to help you generate new business, which of those items are you hiring for? Because if we can agree together, they're all important. It doesn't matter which client acquisition strategy you're using, leveraging, researching, to try and decide between. Some method of each one of those is required. Let's recap that. Make sure that we're thinking the same way. So there's the marketing work of making yourself of getting awareness in your marketplace. So there's got to be some way in which you do that. Then there's got to be a way that you identify the right people to target, the prospecting work. Who do we want to make sure that we're putting our message in front of? And are we sure we're in front of those people? Then there's still some follow-up work because they're not on the phone yet. So you still got to do something to get people actually on the phone. That's the follow-up work. Then there's the sales effort, the actual mechanical sales call, being on the phone, having the interaction, and closing a sale. And then even once you've had that conversation, some other stuff is needed. All of that is client acquisition. You can't not do any of that. All of that is needed in client acquisition. We're talking about for your company. All of that is needed. So when you hire someone to do whatever they do, does it include the other things or no? Are you even sure? Did you even ask? Next piece here. While we're thinking about hiring this out, how many sales do you really need? Yeah, I always find it funny, frankly. I talk to people about how, their growth goals and where they want to take their business. And sometimes folks pull a number right out of the air. They're like, $75,000 a month. I'm like, where did you get that from? Like, where is that number coming from? Or, or it's that kind of, or it's that bland response of, well, I'd love to make 6 figures. Is that 6 figures $100,000? Because that's 6 figures. Or is that 6 figures $400,000? Or is that 6 figures $800,000? Those are all 6 figures. Which of those are you after? And in what time frame do you want to accomplish that goal? Do you even have a thought on that? Why is that important? Because when you're hiring someone to do this work for you, they have to have a sense of how fast you're prepared to move, how aggressive you want to be. Sometimes that sensibility on how fast you want to move and how aggressive you want to be changes your messaging. It changes what you say when you go into these platforms, when you go into these different channels. If you're guessing at your own goals, trouble. So what's really important about this conversation is if you're selling services that are $100 a month or $800 is the grand total of your services, you got to get 100 clients before this even begins to make sense. Like if you're not charging enough for what you do, then you're forced to make up the difference in volume. And now you're forced to go aggressively bring on 10, 20, 40 clients at a time just to make your revenue numbers make sense. And that changes your messaging. It changes how you approach in these different channels. Now I mean, you're just trying to, scoop these major sections of the marketplace. It's hard. It's actually easier if you charge more. It's actually easier. It's easier to meet your revenue goals. You need fewer clients. It's easier to get the focused messaging because you don't need as many clients, right? You need fewer clients. It's easier to pinpoint those folks and to bring them on and then serve them well because you're charging the premium. So to put that in further perspective, do you need one client or 5 clients? What I mean is, for most folks, practically, one client validates the concept. Whatever you're doing, whether you're charging for a new service or you're trying to validate a revision to an old service, whether you're trying to branch out into a new industry or a new niche or whatever, or trying a new channel, trying a new method, one client validates what you're doing. You don't need 100. You need one. One client validates what you're doing. Or maybe you need 5 clients, because for most folks, 5 clients puts them in a brand new set of decisions to make. So I'm functioning at this level, but if I got 5 new clients, I'm now forced to function at that level. So you don't need 1,000 clients. You don't need to do these massive, these massive immersions into these different marketing methods. Do you need one client to validate what you're doing, or do you need 5 to get to your next level up? By the way, questions, comments, responses, let me know. If I'm off my rocker, I accept all challenges. Let me know. Now let's talk about expectations when you hire. Nelson's here. Hey, Nelson. Let's talk about expectations when you hire. So expectations when you hire. So when you're hiring someone to do lead gen help, what have you, right? Whatever you call it, because there's many names for it. I call it client acquisition because the end of all these efforts is to acquire a client. That's the point. The point of all the marketing, prospecting, follow up, however you call it, whatever you call it, the end of it is to acquire a client. So you should see it as a complete process so you can acquire a client. Everything is details to that end goal, a process to that end goal. So when you expectations, when you hire someone, well, I just gave you one. I just gave you one clear expectation, right? A note here is to extend the same patience that you expect. So when you work with clients, when you do what you do with clients, you know that there is a certain amount of time that's needed for setup. And you may call it something different, but we got to kind of get ourselves organized and then begin to do some heavy lifting. Get ourselves organized and then do the next major task. There's something we got to do on the front end so we can do the next thing aggressively, whatever that is. Right now I'm calling it setup. There's some point of setup, and your client has to have patience with that setup portion. It might be one day of setup. It might be a week of setup. It could be a month of setup. It could be a whole quarter, a whole 90 days of setup, depending on what it is that you're offering and how you have it structured. But in most cases, there is some element of setup. And so you expect that level of patience from your client. Well, now you have to offer it. You have to offer the same level of patience. You have to extend the same level of patience that you expect. So when you hire your lead gen expert, your whatever, you're trying some new client acquisition process, you've got to give it some patience. You've got to extend the patience. You've got to make sure, well, let's test it for a day, test it for a week, test it for a month, test it for a quarter if we need to make sure it does what it needs to do before we take the next step. So you got to extend that level of patience. If you force, lightning in a bottle, as they say, if you force an immediate massive result, you may break it before you get started. You should also be clear about, and this is when you're talking to your vendor of choice, you should be clear about, number one, let's acknowledge, is there a setup? How long is that setup? Again, is it a day, a week, a month, whatever? Is there a setup? How long does it take? What should I expect during the setup? What should happen during the setup? And then once we've done the setup and we start doing the real work, if you will, what do I expect then? Do I hit an immediate hockey stick of growth, or does it stair step its way in, or Are we still kind of looking at things more comprehensively and testing and tweaking? These are the kinds of conversations you should be having with your vendor of choice when you hire for lead generation. These are conversations that I'm learning as I talk to you. You're not having these conversations, right? They say they can do a thing, you say yes, and then you take off, and then it's a month later and you're mad. It's a year later and you're disappointed. We got to think about that better. So we're doing it now. You've also got to be honest with yourself. You got to ask the question, am I making a strategic long-term decision? So in other words here, I'm going to work in this channel in this way. Am I making a strategic long-term decision? Do I believe in this? Strategic. Do I believe in this? Like, do I believe in this channel? Do I believe in this method? Do I believe in it? And it long-term, can I use this over and over and over again? Like, I mean, this might be clever today, but can I do it tomorrow? Can I do it next month? Can I do it next year? Can I do it 5 years from now? Can I even see that possibility? That right now we're just can I even see the possibility of it? What I find is that most people are panicked on one end. They need something to work. So I'll try anything. I'll do anything. You're panicked, so you rush in because you're panicked, or you're curious. Boy, that sounds cool. We should try X. And you jump in with all the excitement because you're curious. And too much of either extreme becomes really unhealthy. Not becomes, it is really unhealthy. When you're panicked, you make poor decisions because you're thinking way too small and you're thinking way too of a finite short-term time frame. And when you're curious, you're having too much fun just playing with the task. And so you can't be deliberate. You can't be intentional with what you want back from the task because it's just so much fun to just play with it. So somewhere in the middle is your pragmatism. Somewhere in the middle is the real business owner. Somewhere in the middle is your leadership perspective that says, "Yep, we do need some growth. We do need to continue and get better here. But we also we're also curious to see if it'll work well." But the combination of those is what's going to make sure that we get what we want from the experience. By the way, what do you want from the experience? And that's a whole conversation as well, right? What do you want? Actually, I'm going to help you with that in just a minute. So I don't want to get stuck there. But let me push a little further with this. Here's some questions I want to just throw at you. And I bet on your end, you're going to start to smile, you're going to start to nod, or you're going to kind of hold your stomach because you'll be a little bit embarrassed, right? So here we go. When you talk to your vendor of choice, when y'all were having the conversation, what did they tell you they could do? So when y'all were talking about signing on or not signing on, what did they tell you they could do? What did their pamphlet say? What did their salesperson say? What was this? What did the PowerPoint slide say? What was described to you? What did they tell you you could do? Did you listen? Did you honestly listen to what they told you they could do? Not what you projected to them, what you projected, what you wanted to hear. Did you listen to what they said? Did you really hear what they said? Did you really hear that they said they could do blank and I really want blank done? Did you hear? Did you believe them? Did you believe them when they said so? So they made you a promise that they said they could do these things. And did the smart person in you, did the leader in you, did the business owner in you, did the pragmatist in you say, I believe that can work? Or panicked or curious, right? Because panic or curious will have your thinking all in a knot, right? So, okay, now here's my closing question here. What did you buy? So y'all had a conversation, they told you some stuff. You said, sounds good, whatever. But when it all comes down to it, what did you buy? Did you just buy 8 hours of time from a guy who says he does sales? Did you just buy a software tool? I mean, yeah, they said all that stuff, but really what it comes down to is that you bought a software tool. What did you buy? Because what you thought you were buying was new leads. What you thought you were buying were new opportunities. But that's may not have been what you bought. What you bought was a couple hours of time. Be honest, right? I'm not with you, right? I'm right now, I'm in a screen. So I don't see your reaction, but I talk to real people, and these become the real conversations. So you heard, in short of what I'm saying here about around in regards to expectations, you heard what you wanted to hear. You said yes to what you wanted to hear, but they were describing something different. And so then at some point, there's a day of reckoning where what you wanted to hear and what they told you are now both shown clear, and they're different. They're not the same. And on that day, some very ugly things happen. Let's move on. All right. So what is it being your experience in the end? So your experience in the end, you buy these services, right? You buy these services. The person says they can do whatever, and you get started. What is your tactical, practical experience? What is your everyday experience working with your partner, your agency partner, your vendor, your freelancer, your VA? One of two extremes ends up being the reality. One is blinders. So you have no idea what's happening. They said they were doing some work. You trust that it's being done. Sounds good to me. And they just do some work. And every now and again, they throw you a couple of details and you go, okay. But more or less, you have no idea what they do. Total blinders. Or the other extreme is something that is completely overly intensive, where now you're having to set up all this, you say yes to beginning work, and now you got to create stuff and do stuff and follow up with stuff and hire some other people and get some other support systems and stuff. And the amount of infrastructure needed to pull off what they made sound so simple is now turning you way off. It is uninteresting, but now you're in it. You paid the money, so now you're in it. So now you're trying to create all this other extra infrastructure in order to pull this off. Is this your experience? It's mine. It's what I've gone through. It's what my clients are going through. It seems to be the measure of the day. That's what's happening. People are out here buying lead gen help, and they're finding themselves swirled around in an experience that they didn't want. Let us continue. Let's be clear about what you really need. So past all the shiny objects and the clever ways of saying it and the fancy presentations, let's just, kind of bottom line, brass tacks. What do you really need? What do you really need? The perspective I offer my clients, and I'm offering you the same perspective right now. What you really need are a couple of clients at a premium price point. You just need a couple of clients at a premium price point. You don't need 100 clients. You don't need 80 clients. You don't need 60 clients. You don't even need 10 clients. You need just a handful of clients that you've charged the appropriate premium, and you can work with them for the long term. That's really what you need. And to create that goal, you need a process designed to create conversations. You got to talk to people. You got to get on the phone and have real, honest dialogue, have real, honest conversations. Another reality of the folks who I talk to on a regular basis, the clients that I work with, is they're not on the phone enough. They're not talking to people. They're not talking to enough people. Just very plainly, very simply, they're not talking to enough people. They're doing marketing. They're doing stuff. They're stressing themselves to no end, but they're not honestly talking to people. By the way, when we talk about talking to people, we talk about conversations. I use that word a lot, conversations, because that's what I really mean. I really mean have a conversation. In the last, 5 or 10 years here, marketing people have gotten really slick with reframing the sales call. So now they don't use the term sales call. Now people use the term discovery call, and strategy session, and meet and greet, or maybe even virtual coffee. And all that stuff is just gloss for a sales call. Like when you actually have the interaction, you just get sold to. So we're all now skeptical of getting on a call because we don't want to be pitched at, talked at, have sales stuff slung at us for 45 minutes. When I say conversation, that's exactly what I mean. I mean, have a conversation where you speak, the other person listens, they speak, and you listen. And then you speak and offer something, and then they speak and you listen some more. Like an actual conversation. Like if you were talking to a family member or a friend or a loved one, like you'd have a real actual conversation. Yeah, a real conversation. The idea here is to have a conversation that ends with a decision. That's the point. It's two adults talking, two business people talking. It should be a conversation that ends in a decision in some way of some type. You need a process that creates more of those. That's what you need. And you can get into all the other infrastructure if you like. There's a place for having all the infrastructure, but it can be very, very overwhelming. It can be truly over your depth without all the different ways and elements of doing it. So if lead gen's what you need and you're trying to do it more predictably, the appropriate goal should be more conversations, right? If you disagree, let me know. If you disagree with that, if you have a different perspective on that, let me know. I take all comers. I take no offense. I take no offense. I'm laughing. Emily made a joke here. She said, "Virtual coffee. How do you get the caffeine in your system via a USB USB port?" That's funny. I don't even drink coffee. Right? Who needs it? I know a lot of people do. A lot of people do. All right, that's a sidebar. Don't do that, Alze. Stay focused. Okay. So let's move on here to a potential solution here. All right. What makes sense in regards to a solution? If what you're after, if you agree with my perspective here, that really what you need are a couple of clients at a premium price point. You need a handful of clients. You don't need 40 clients, 80 clients, or whatever. Really, right now, no matter what level financially you're playing at, in practicality, you just need a couple of clients at a premium price point. If you agree with that, if you're looking for a process that doesn't require you to have all this infrastructure in order to execute it, if you're looking for a process if you're looking for a process that you want to actually understand, so this whole thing about turning your blinders on and just because you don't want to be bothered and you assume magic will happen in the other room, if you actually want to have transparency in the process that you're following, if you believe in the idea of having conversations, not these ugly, weird sales calls, but real, just actual interactions, actual conversations with the right person, having the right kind of conversation. If that whole way of thinking resonates with you, then I want to remind you of the power of LinkedIn, because what I just described to you is what LinkedIn is for. LinkedIn was designed to do what I'm describing right now. You don't need the fancy infrastructure. LinkedIn has taken the infrastructure away. In fact, they are the infrastructure. LinkedIn is the infrastructure that you need to do what you're trying to do. You don't need the heavy infrastructure. It's designed to be a business to business communication platform. It's designed to help us have better conversations. The thing, though, is that you have to be willing to have conversations. So if you've got some fancy philosophy on why you shouldn't talk to people, then do not bother with LinkedIn. You're in the wrong place. You're doing the wrong thing. Matter of fact, don't watch this video anymore. Click out. Continue on with your day. But if conversations are what you're after, LinkedIn is trying to make it easy for us. Man, what I'm personally excited about is this training course that I created, and specifically one of the bonuses of that course, which allows you to delegate this process. So let me explain. I've had my own experience doing lead gen 100 different ways. I have paid people, face-to-face people. I've paid virtually. I've paid agencies. I've paid real money trying to get help with business development related stuff, client acquisition stuff. And I have been underwhelmed and underimpressed with not the people that I hire, because it's not personal to me in that way, but the service, the bottom line service I got when I paid that money didn't meet my expectations. The result of what I got didn't meet my expectations. And specifically as it related to, and so then So then I did my part to build a process. This is internal to my own business. I did my part to build a process. And then I began to hire virtual people, hire VAs to do certain elements. And again, I was underwhelmed and underimpressed because I was trying to save money. I was trying to do it more cost effectively because I had spent the big checks already. And again, I was underwhelmed and underimpressed with the virtual community and their savvy in client acquisition. I wasn't very impressed. Even when I had a process for them, that I found that people weren't as good as they said they weren't as good as I thought they should be. It didn't work out well. So fast forward all of that, right? Take all that experience and crunch it and refine it and make it plain. And that's what this LinkedIn lead generation course is designed to be. There's a link right now in the description. That is what this course is designed to be. It gives you not only a straightforward process to execute, but it also makes it clear and plain enough where you can clearly understand it without having to become some marketing genius. It's also clear and plain enough where someone else can do it on your behalf without they being a marketing genius. And there's the bonus in the training course is specifically designed to help you delegate it, to help you set your expectations. It even gives you a job description. Help you set your expectations, a way of dialoguing with your virtual assistant. And my VA and I built this together. This part of the course, we actually built it together. So you're hearing from her. You're hearing from her what she took from me, what she needed from me, and why she's able to be so productive inside my business is because she got the leadership, the guidance she needed from me. So instead of you having to design all that yourself, I'm giving it to you in the training course. I'm giving you the entire platform, the entire blueprint, the entire process, and I'm even giving you a strategy to delegate it. I've already fought the fight. So if I'm trying to give you the answer, I'm personally excited about that because I am underwhelmed with all the people who say they can do lead generation type stuff and they're not doing it well. And I've gone through a lot of the reasons here where that breakdown can happen. But now that we've kind of done all that, if you want the answer, if you just want to get it done, that's what the whole LinkedIn lead gen course is for. So if that's interesting to you, please click the link, buy the course, follow the instructions. Do it, man. Do it, right? All right, Q&A time. So I'm shifting here to Q&A. If we've got questions, if you've got questions, please ask them while we are live. Please ask them while we're live. I'm checking the records here. Checking the records here. Oh, I got some applause earlier. That's from Xander. Thanks, Xander. Oh no, Xander was waving. Ha! That's a wave. See, my emoticon game is not as strong as it should be. Hey Xander. Hey man, glad you're here. All right. Good. Good. Okay, so today looks like no questions. I'm triple checking all my typical areas. No, looks like we're good. All right, folks. If we're good, we're good. Thank you for your time today. I appreciate it. Best of luck, man. Get the help you need. Move forward. I wish you well. Talk to you soon.